What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Ben on Sports. And today, if you guys remember, I did it for the month of May and I'm doing it for the month of June. Well, I did it for the month of April in May. I did it for, and now I'm doing it for the month of May in June. It is a monthly update episode. We're going to look at where things stand in the MLB after its second full month of May and kind of just give an update on the season. I said I was going to do it at the beginning of the year when I did my really big season preview. And so far, I'm 2 for 2. One disclaimer before we get into this: all of the records in this episode are the records as of the end of May. So any games played on Monday, June 1st, and from there on will not be included in the records. This is purely where teams were placed after the end of the month of May, which ended on Sunday. So if you're watching this a couple days later and you're like, why aren't the records updated that we're talking about? That would be the reason. So without further ado, let's get into this episode as I have a lot to talk about. And as usual, I'm trying to keep this one down to 30 minutes for you guys. Some different early storylines. Tight wild card races. Obviously, most of them are going to be tight. It's only been 2 months, so the teams are still largely grouped together, but they're tight for different reasons. In the National League, you have a lot of good teams or a lot of teams with winning records. In the American League, in the wild card race, you have a lot of teams with losing records. So you have one league that's kind of struggling to get going and kind of mid, and another league that is above 500. And if you don't win 2 out of every 3 games, you're going to have struggled to keep pace on a regular basis. So yeah, still tight wildcard races. I love tight wildcard races. I'm sure some teams will drop out as the year goes on, but if none do and this many teams feel like they have a chance, there might not be that many sellers at the trading deadline. Number 2, incredible rookie of the year races. I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but the young guns are here and they are showing up. There's some teams that are relying on multiple rookies to be good. And it's just so exciting to see so much young talent getting infused in the league. Injuries are slowing some hopeful contenders. The Orioles have had a couple. The Blue Jays have had a couple. Maybe this is why the American League records are so bad. The Mets, they are starting to rebound, as I'll talk about later, but they've had quite a few injury problems throughout the year, and it's not limited to some of these teams. These are just the first teams that came to my head when I was writing notes, but quite a few contenders have had injury issues, but injuries aren't an excuse. Everybody has them. You have to have depth in your roster. You look at a team like the Yankees, they've had injuries all year, and they're still finding a way to be one of the best teams in the league. The Braves have found a way to be one of the best teams in the league despite injuries. Obviously, the injury bug hits some teams harder than others, but I do think injuries are affecting some teams more than others, and you can't have that be your excuse all the time. The Rays are raising. This is an early storyline. They have one of the best records in the MLB, and they're doing it in a very Tampa Bay Rays way. I feel like since the 2000s, the Rays have always been on the front end of how can we find value out of strategy, out of players, out of play style that nobody else does. The Rays are currently doing it right now, kind of an old school dead ball approach. We're just going to make contact. We're not going to hit a lot of home runs. We're not going to hit for a lot of power. Well, most of the roster, and we're going to bunt, we're going to steal, we're going to make contact, we're going to be hard to strike out, we're just going to put the ball in play and see what happens. And then the Rays always have a good pitching staff. Even if you've never heard of people before, they always find a way to put together a good pitching staff. And the Rays are raising first seed in the American League right now. It's always so interesting to see how the Rays, they're always on such an extreme budget. They very rarely hand out big extensions to their own players, but they always find a way to find value on the margins that maybe other teams miss. And they're doing it right now. They are doing their thing. We'll see if that has postseason success or not. But right now, it is an interesting story. Number 5, a trend that has captured the hearts of MLB fans, and it's happening just about everywhere. The tarps off. And my question to anybody that listens to this, and you can answer this in the comments below, are we fans of tarps off or are we not fans of tarps off? Is it good or bad? For those of you who may not know, it started with the St. Louis Cardinals, I believe, and I've seen it at no less than 10 MLB ballparks already this season. Tarps off. There's sections of MLB stadiums that get a whole bunch of, it seems like it's mostly younger lads. They all take their shirts off in late game situations and start waving the shirts around in a circle like it's a rally towel above their head. And the movement has been called tarps off. Like I said, a lot of teams around the MLB have been doing it. And I want to know how the rest of the MLB feels. Are we appreciating tarps off? Are we not? Have you participated in tarps off? Well, maybe don't answer that because there might be some YouTube issues there. But tarps off, good or bad? Let me know in the comments. It's rare that a trend as quickly as this one has kind of spreads like fire over the league. Like I said, I think almost every team has had at least one game where the tarps off has happened. And you see a whole section of the stadium. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 sections, shirtless, waving their shirts around. Sometimes they start chanting for the players. It's a very interesting development, one that I did not see coming. And then the last storyline I want to talk about is the ABS strategy and the effect it has on umpires. I think I kind of hinted at this at the end of the April update a month ago, but I'm really ready to come out on a stance. ABS is redirecting hate towards players and coaches for the challenges they do and don't make, or like their strategy as a team, instead of continue to be mad at umpires that don't do their job. And no umpires are going to be perfect. They're not in any sport, but there's still sometimes some pretty big misses. And I feel like, especially with ABS now, the important thing is that you get the easy ones right. And they're still not getting the easy ones right all the time. And I still think we need to expect umpires to be good regardless of whether there's ABS or not. And I think sometimes that's getting lost in translation. And I think there's an ABS strategy. Obviously, this isn't the case all the time, but it seems like a lot of teams now have kind of changed their strategy to maybe only certain players can challenge, or you can only challenge certain times of games. Because does a challenge in the first inning, is that as valuable as a challenge in the 8th or 9th inning in a crucial point of a game? Maybe, maybe not, but you never know when you're going to score runs or when your opportunity to shut down an inning is going to be. Maybe you're facing a bases loaded 2-out situation in the first inning and you challenge, and that's your only chance to score, or that was your only chance to shut down the inning before your team got down 6-0 in the first inning, and then it feels like the game is over. So I would caution against that strategy. I think if you have the opportunity and you feel confident, let it rip. But ABS strategy has becoming more and more important. When you use them, who's allowed to use them? Is there situations where you use them and situations where it's like, well, it's not that big of a deal here? Let me know your thoughts on how you would use ABS strategy if you were a major league team and how you would be implementing it. Moving on to the current standings across the MLB, and here you can kind of see a little bit about what I was talking about with the difference in records between the American League and National League. There is only 4 teams with a winning record in the American League. In the National League, there is 11. So over half of the National League is over 500, and just 4 on the American League side. So that should even out as the season goes on, but it'll be interesting to watch this divide and to see if it continues, or the National League seems to be the clearly better league in comparison to the American League. But in the American East, the division I always start with, the Rays and the Yankees have the 2 best records in the American League. The Rays at 36-20, the Yankees a game and a half back at 36-23. They've already played 3 more games than the Rays, so the Rays also have a chance to extend that lead as they catch up to the Yankees in games played. And then you have a trio of wildcard teams that are already pretty far back if they want, if they still are trying to win the division. The Blue Jays, the Orioles, and the Red Sox. Blue Jays 2 games under 500 at 29-31. The Orioles a game back of them, 4 games under 500, and the Red Sox 2 back of the Orioles, 8 games under 500. Then you look to the Central. The Cleveland Guardians, with the 3rd best record in the American League, have started to separate themselves from all but one team in the American League Central. They're leading the Central with a 34-27 record. And then maybe the biggest surprise in baseball right now, I thought they were going to be better. I said that at the season preview episode. I said I think they can get to 70, maybe 80 wins this year. I didn't think they were going to be in a playoff spot anytime in the month of June. The White Sox at 32-27, 5 games above 500, only 1 game back of the Guardians. And then the Twins currently in the playoff hunt, 6.5 back. They are at 27-33. And then the two worst records in the American League, some people viewed them as the two favorites to win this division, definitely two of the three. The Royals at 22-37 and the Tigers, without Tariq Skubal for still an extended period of time, 22-38. And they are 11-11.5 games back. In the West, the Mariners leading, only team in the West above 500, and they are only at 31-29. The A's looking for some more consistent pitching, but a team full of young, talented hitters at 28-31. That is only 2.5 back. The Rangers do very good pitching staff, looking for more consistent offense, in my opinion. The Rangers 28-31, tied with the A's in second. The Astros, after a horrendous start to the season, are starting to rebound. They are up to 27-34, only 4.5 back of first, right there in the wild card race. And then the Angels, the third worst team in the American League, at 27-37, 8 games back of first place. So really in the American League, it only looks that like 3 teams are kind of way back and out of it right now, and everybody else is in it. Like I said, very competitive league, but it's because there's a lot of teams that are struggling. The opposite of that, let's go over to the National League. In the East, you have not just the National League East leading, but the MLB leading Atlanta Braves, 40-20, first team to win 40 games, winning 2 out of every 3 games so far this season. That is an incredible winning percentage, despite some of the injuries. We'll see how long they last. But Braves are in first place at 40-20. The Nationals are already 9 games back at 31-29. The Nationals, all offense, no pitching. No pitching for the Nationals. Really good offense, and they've been able to power themselves to now being above 500. The Phillies, horrific start to the season. They're back in the wild card race. They're 9.5 back in the East, but they're above 500 at 30-29. I said it at the end of April. I said the Phillies or Mets, one, are going to go on a run. Maybe both of them. They're not that bad. They're going to start getting close to 500, and the Phillies are above 500. And the Mets, not quite as hot as the Phillies, but they're up to 26-33 and starting to get a little bit healthier. I don't know if they can pull back this 13.5 game deficit to the division lead, but they can definitely, if they stay hot, make a run at the wild card. And then the Marlins in last at 26-34, 14 back of the Braves. Marlins, super, super cold stretch during the month of May. In the American League Central, the entire division is still above 500 like it was at the end of April. It still is at the end of May. Brewers, though, are the ones leading it, not the Reds. Brewers are 35-21. The Cardinals at 31-26. I'll have a little bit more on them later. But the Cardinals 4.5 back in second. The Pirates 5 back in third at 32-28. The Cubs are in fourth. I did not think they would be in fourth this late into the season. I guess they're really tied with the Pirates, as they are, both teams are 32-28. And then the Reds have gone from first at the end of April to fifth at the end of May. They are just 30-28, have some injuries. Just to toot my own horn, remember, ladies and gentlemen, I said I think the Reds can make the playoffs, but I did not think they were good enough to win the Central. I think they got off to a hot start, and then I think after I said that on the episode, they immediately went on an 8-game losing streak. Sometimes I get it right, not all the time, but I wanted to pat myself on the back there. Now that I said it, the Reds will probably win their next 10 games, and if that's the case, Cincinnati fans can thank me. In the West, the Dodgers, the evil empire of baseball, the team everybody hates, they are unsurprisingly leading the West with a record of 38-21, and they have the second biggest gap over second place in their division, which is the Padres at 32-26, and the Padres are 5.5 back. Diamondbacks, despite a rough end to the month, are 31-27, still above 500. Looking at the wild card, they are 6.5 back of the Dodgers in the division. And then the two worst teams in the National League by quite a few games, the Giants at 23 and 36, 15 games back. And after a fun start to the season, the Rockies have settled into a 22 and 38 record, which is already 16 and a half back of the Dodgers in first. Quite different leagues. National League has a lot more separation and their bottom is bad, but the American League is a lot more mid and has less World Series contenders. But let's look at these wildcard standings. For me to include you in the wildcard standings, my rule is usually you have to be within 3 games or in a spot. In the American League, you can see the Yankees are 7.5 up. The Yankees feel quite safe. Their attention's focused on winning the division and running down the Rays, but they are pretty safely, as of right now, into a wild card spot. The White Sox, 3.5 games, and I'll be interested to see where they are during the All-Star break, at the end of June, that type of thing. I don't think the White Sox are going to continue to stay there, but for right now, they're second in the wild card. And just as everybody predicted, the Yankees and White Sox, if the playoffs were to start today, would be seeing each other in the first round of the American League playoffs. But this is where things get close and interesting. Like I said, I think these teams are going to go on losing streaks. They're going to go on winning streaks, and I think that they're going to get shuffled around. The Yankees feel like a safe bet to be the first wild card, assuming they stay healthy. But everybody else, I think, is going to go up and down all season. But the Blue Jays right now are the third American League wild card. They have found a way, despite their injuries, to make it back to the playoffs after losing Game 7 in the World Series in heartbreaking fashion. 2 teams only a half a game back. The Athletics and the Rangers, like I said, they're tied for second in their division. They're 3 games under 500, half a game back of the Blue Jays. And then the Orioles are 1 game back of their division rival Blue Jays. Those 2 teams actually just played a 4-game series, and either team could have gotten some space from the other one or gotten a bigger lead in the wild card. Instead, they decided to split it 2-2. Both teams had one big late inning choke, so I think it's kind of interesting that they're both fighting for that last wild card seed, and neither team really wanted it in that series. Then you go to the Twins in 7th, who are 2 back of the Blue Jays. The Astros 2.5 back of the Blue Jays for the final spot, and the Red Sox 3 games back of their division rival for the final spot, which means the 3 through 9 teams in the American League wild card are separated by just 3 games for the wild card spot. And if you include the White Sox, it's 8 teams to get in, and they're separated by 6.5 games. And like I said, I personally believe the White Sox might drop back towards the rest of this field. The only team that feels safe in the wild card in the American League is the Yankees, and there's still a long way to go for that to change as well. In the National League, the Padres are currently leading the wild card. They didn't end the month of May great, but they still got off to a good enough start where they have a 1-game advantage on the cut line of the wild card at 32 and 26. They're the leaders in the clubhouse. The Cardinals a half game back of that, half game lead over the cut line at 31 and 26. And then a 3-way tie for the last wild card that would, as of right now, go to the Diamondbacks because there's an uneven amount of games played. But the Diamondbacks at 31 and 27, and the Pirates and Cubs are both at 32 and 28. Shows you how close it is. All of them are a game back of being the first. All of them are a game and a half back of being last in this big wild card picture. Diamondbacks, Pirates, and Cubs all kind of tied and jockeying for position for 3rd place in the wild card. Then you have the Reds, who are just a game back. Literally every day, you could have a 5-day or a 5-position variance of where you finish depending on the day in the National League race. The Nationals are also a game back with the Reds. They have played 2 more games, however. And then the Phillies have found a way to go from awful start to the season, and in just 1 month, they are already only a game and a half out of the National League wild card. Like I said, a lot of losing teams on one side, a lot of winning records on the other side. Will that trend continue to hold? Let me know in the comments below who you think will be the wild card teams or the teams that you're looking at for both leagues. Teams I'm buying and selling. I had a buying and selling last month, but it wasn't like this. It was more about general storylines. Now I have teams that I've watched and teams that I like and teams that I don't. On the buying list, I'm buying that the Phillies are back. I think they figured it out. They have the home run leader. They have Trey Turner. They have Bryce Harper. They have maybe the Cy Young favorite in Christopher Sanchez, and they have good pitching around him. I think the Phillies are back. I think they're going to continue this hot streak, continue to make a push towards the top of the wild card. The Diamondbacks, I'm also buying. I think that rotation is going to get better as the season goes on. It's already pretty good. And I think more people than Corbin Carroll they're going to. That's my biggest question. Can they find enough offense outside of their star? I would say stars plural. But I don't know if Corbin Carroll might be their only star offensive player. I digress. The Diamondbacks, I am buying. I do think they are a serious wildcard contender. I am buying the Guardians. I try not to put division leaders or like World Series favorites on this list of buyers because it's like, no, duh. But the Guardians are the only division leader you see here, and I'm buying them. Yes, they have a lot. They have a lot of rookies playing important times for them. You think Messick, DeLauder, Bazana, but those guys so far through the first 2 months have lived up to expectation, and more experience in the major leagues is not a bad thing. Yes, maybe you see a cold stretch from them as the league figures them out, but I think all three players are so talented, and all three are going to continue to play well for the Guardians. I'm buying the Cubs now. While they're out of the playoffs, I'm going to buy the Cubs. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to catch the Brewers. The Brewers have this, they're kind of like the Rays of the National League, or maybe the Rays or the Brewers of the American League, where they just always find ways to be competitive and be in contention. But the Cubs, I think, are going to make a run and finish second in that division. Worst case scenario, third, and find a way into the playoffs. I like that roster for the most part. I think it's going to continue to get better. And I wouldn't be shocked to see the Cubs make a big trade deadline move. And then the Rangers, for me, it's can the Rangers stay healthy? If they're healthy, I'm buying them. I'm buying them to potentially win their division if they can stay healthy. I love the rotation. Jacob deGrom, I think, is going to get better and better and make a run at the American League Cy Young. And I think the Rangers, after missing the playoffs for the last 2 years, after winning the World Series in 2023, I think, assuming they have some health, this could be their best chance at making it back to the playoffs, better than they've had the last couple of seasons. Teams that I am selling, put the Chicago White Sox on the list. I think Murakami is a great story, but now he's hurt for at least a month. I think their pitching staff has some obvious regression. I think their offense will stay. It maybe dip a little bit. I like a lot of the pieces on the offense. I do worry about consistency, but I do think that pitching staff drops off. I think there's some regression to the mean for the White Sox coming. I was on them early. I said they're going to win. They are a threat to win 70 to 80 games. I still don't think they're good enough to make the playoffs over all these other wild card hopefuls in the American League. So I'm going to sell stock high on the White Sox. I'm going to sell it super high on the Cardinals. The Cardinals, I think, are a good team. I think they have a great future. I think they have one of the best rookies in all of baseball this year. J.J. Weatherholt looks phenomenal. They have some other young pieces that are playing well. But I don't think they have their lineup depth. Like, they have maybe 4 or 5 hitters that I trust to continue to hit for them and play well. I think the starting rotation is playing maybe a little bit better than what they're going to finish the year at. So I think there's some regression coming from the pitching staff. I still think this Cardinals team can hang around in the wild card race, but I don't see them making the playoffs. I think next season is the year where they break out and make the playoffs and show how good they are. But it has certainly been a good start for them. The Reds, I kind of already mentioned I was selling them earlier this season, but I'm going to stay on that train now. Ellie De La Cruz is out, even if it's not for a long stretch. Missing him for any time. He is so important to that team's offense. I think the Reds, again, have some good players in good positions, but they're not quite there yet. I still want the back end of their rotation to get stronger, and I still need to see more offensive firepower out of the Reds. I'm selling the Blue Jays. They're currently in the playoffs, and their pitching staff is all kinds of banged up and hurt, and I think it's going to put stress on arms. It's going to hurt them later in the season. I don't buy their offense, especially outside of maybe 3 guys. I don't think their offense is that great, and I think some people are more likely to regress than continue doing what they're doing in that offense. The Blue Jays, maybe if they embrace this small ball, can do it. But I'm going to sell the Blue Jays, and I would be shocked if they I'm not going to be shocked if they win the wild card, but I don't think they're one of the best three teams in their division by the end of the season, and I'll leave it at that. And then I'm going to also sell a divisional opponent of those Blue Jays, the Tampa Bay Rays. It's acute. It's awesome what they're able to do. It's awesome when you see the Rays raising, but I don't think that they are a serious contender. They should make the playoffs. I don't think their style of baseball is going to go well over in October. They do have good pitching, and that's arguably the most important piece to have in October. But I don't see the Rays making a long run in the postseason. I'm going to be early on this train and say I'm selling the Rays for many of the reasons I have already listed in this episode. Just as I did last month, now that I have told you the teams I like, the teams I don't like, you've seen the records, how teams currently stand after 2 months of play. I'm going to show you what I think the playoff bracket will look like. And yes, it has changed since the beginning of the year, and it's changed since the end of April. I'm trying to use a little bit of how I've seen them, how a team has looked over the last month, since that's what this is. This is monthly updates. So taking in recent form of how they've played since the last update and what the records currently look like. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I predict the playoff bracket to look like. And for the American League, I have the Yankees winning their division over the Rays, the AL East finishing as the first seed, the Mariners finishing as the second seed, and the Guardians winning and being the 3 seed. Rays and Rangers being the 4-5 matchup, and the Blue Jays being the 6th, which kind of goes against what I said about them not being a top 3 team. I think the Orioles and Red Sox can both pass them. But again, using the last month, the Blue Jays had the best month out of those 3 teams. We'll see how I feel at the end of June. But moving on, doesn't matter because I have the Blue Jays losing to the Guardians round 1 anyway. The Guardians, I think, are going to be their normal, fun, pesky selves again in the postseason. And I can't wait to see their young stars try and make an October run. And as always, I want to mention Jose Ramirez, who I think is one of the most underappreciated players in this era of baseball. The wild card round between the Rays and the Rangers, I have going to the Rangers, where it would set up Rangers, Yankees, Mariners, Guardians, and I have the Yankees and Guardians winning and rematching in the playoffs again in the ALCS like they did in 2024, where I have the Yankees winning and going to the World Series, which is something I have had multiple times in these MLB updates. I had them last time winning the American League. I still think the Yankees are the best all-around team in the American League and that they should go to the World Series. And in the NL, it's still largely the same. I do have different seedings. I think the Phillies find a way to make it into the playoffs as the 6th seed, where they would see the Brewers, and I actually have them beating the Brewers with that excellent pitching staff. I would love to see a game 1 between Mizorowski and Sanchez, especially when you look at the months they both just had. Then on the other side of the bracket, I have the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. Give me the Cubs to play the Dodgers, the Phillies to play the Braves. Two excellent. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I think it would be reseeded where it would be the Dodgers and the Phillies and the Braves and the Cubs based off of seeding, but it doesn't matter. I think the Dodgers and the Braves are on a collision course for that National League Championship Series. I think they are to the 2 best teams in the National League, maybe the 2 best teams in the league, and I think it doesn't matter who they play. I have them both moving on to the NLCS, where the big, bad, mean, evil empire of the Dodgers finally, they've been playing a lot of extra baseball as a team. I think it finally catches up. I think the Braves, again, this whole bracket is me assuming these teams stay healthy, which is big for the Braves. It doesn't always happen for them. But I think the Braves have the pitching and the offense to finally take down the Dodgers after winning back-to-back championships, which would set us up with a World Series final of the Yankees and the Braves, where I would have the Braves beating the Yankees and an absolutely electrifying series between 2 huge fan bases that love baseball. And the last thing I have is updated award favorites. Some of these look the same, some of these look different. In the American League, right now, Aaron Judge, pretty heavy favorite to win another MVP. He's won however how many American League MVPs in a row. I think that stays the same this year. Yordan Alvarez, I have second. Maybe if the Astros can go on a run led by Alvarez, he can catch up to Judge, but I find it unlikely. Bobby Witt's name is always up here. I have him third. I still don't think he's having a great season, but not Bobby Witt good, not MVP good. But he still belongs in these discussions. Julio Rodriguez, I have fourth. The Mariners are now leading their division. If that continues, especially with the strong season Julio Rodriguez is having, I think Julio Rodriguez could continue to climb this list. And right now, Nick Kurtz, I wanted to put J Ram. Everybody knows how I love J Ram. But I have Nick Kurtz there for the Athletics right now. He's having a great season, super long on base streak. Obviously, a big headline like that always helps your cases. A's having it very close to 500, very close to the playoffs. If he can lead them offensively to the playoffs, he could very well be in this conversation as well. In the National League, Shohei Ohtani, when you can hit, he's maybe not having the same offensive season. He's still having a good offensive season, but not what he's done the last 2 years. But he's still a good offensive player and probably going to continue to get better in return to what he is used to. But he's also having a phenomenal pitching season. And when you put those two things together, no other player in the league can replicate it. And that's why Shohei is going to win the MVP again, because he's reminding everybody of how dominant a pitcher he can be. Kyle Schwarber firmly in second. MLB home runs leader. Kyle Schwarber has been just hitting it, crushing it all year this year after picking up that big contract. Kyle Schwarber deserves to be second in this conversation. I think Corbin Carroll, another young star in the league. Right now, I have him third. Ellie De La Cruz could be third, but he's hurt right now, and he might completely fall off the list if he misses too much time. And Juan Soto, the Mets are getting better. If the Mets are good enough, like it's hard to win MVP if your team's bad, but if the Mets can continue to win games, Juan Soto's having a good season. I think Juan Soto can put himself in the top 5 of the MVP voting conversation. In the American League Cy Young, a lot has changed, but that's what happens when a name like Tariq Skubal misses extended time and will continue to miss time. He's not going to play enough games this season, I think, to win the Cy Young. But Cam Schittler for the Yankees, incredible season so far, has to be number 1 on the American League Cy Young ballot. I think Jacob deGrom is second and has the ability to catch Schittler, but he's going to have an incredible rest of the season to do so, assuming Schittler continues to play at the level he has. I have Dylan Cease with a new team in the Blue Jays in third. Gavin Williams, kind of maybe in some respects underrated for the Guardians, another guy having a great season. And then Shane McClanahan, his health is always the question. You know how good he is when he's healthy. If he stays healthy, which is a big if for him, I think he's going to stay in the top 5 conversation all year long. In the National League Cy Young race, the 2 best pitchers last month were Christopher Sanchez for the Phillies, Jacob Misiorowski for the Brewers. They both just had 2 of the best months I've ever seen a pitcher have. You could make the argument, and I think you'd be right, that they're the 2 best pitchers in the league. And they're in the same they're both in the National League. I mean, they're the best pitchers in the entire MLB, not just the National League. They both just had great months of May, and they're both neck and neck for the NL Cy Young right now. Whoever can have consistency, whoever's team needs them to perform more, whichever team has the better year, I don't know how they're going to decide it. But right now, I'm giving Sanchez the coin flip over Jacob Misiorowski. We'll see what that looks like in a month. Maybe one of these guys falls off, but both of them just having incredible seasons, especially in the month of May. Paul Skeens is still pretty good. Don't forget about that guy. He's in third in the NL Cy Young, just not because he's been bad, but because of how good the other 2 have been. Shohei Ohtani is reminding everybody what he can do on the mound. He's been incredible this year. And Chris Sale, still firmly in the NL Cy Young race, is still firmly in the top 5, in my opinion. Let's move on to the Rookie of the Year matches. And the AL Rookie of the Year, McGonigal is now my favorite, with Murakami missing extra time. I think it's going to be harder for him to win the award. But he has started off the season so hot before he got hurt. And maybe he can still win the award, but he's going to have to come back and continue to be hot and not have a cold stretch. But McGonagall over Murakami right now. And then I have Samuel Samuel Basayo. Sorry, I'm trying to pronounce everybody's names correctly, and I'm not always good at it. But Samuel Basayo up to third in the AL Rookie of the Year. He had an incredible month of May. He's actually like top three, not just for rookies, but for MLB players as a whole in the month of May with many batting categories. The more at bats the Orioles give them, the better I think they'll be. They have an interesting catcher situation where they have two of the best catchers in the MLB, definitely two of the best offensive catchers. So giving them both time is sometimes difficult using the DH. But Basayo, I think he's clearly third, and I think he can catch up to these top two guys if he continues to hit the ball as well as he has. The only pitcher on the list, Parker Messick, still putting up incredible numbers for the Guardians. Fifth, Travis Bazana for the Guardians. Did not start the season, and sometimes that hurts in Rookie of the Year voting. He didn't start the season in the major leagues, but came up pretty quickly and has been producing ever since he came up. And then just to prove a point here with the Cleveland Guardians, I also have number 6 in my AL Rookie of the Year voting going to Chase DeLauder, another one of their rookies. So the Guardians having all kinds of young talent. They could easily put 2, potentially even 3 players in the top 5 of the American League Rookie of the Year. But right now, I don't think any of them would be winning. And in the NL Rookie of the Year, I think J.J. Weatherholt might be starting to separate himself from the group. J.J. Weatherholt has been so impressive, arguably already the best bat on the Cardinals. J.J. Weatherholt, leader in the clubhouse. Sal Stewart, number 2, didn't fall off as much as I thought he might start falling off, proving me wrong. Sal Stewart firmly in second place behind J.J. Weatherholt, and it might come down to which one of their teams, if either one of them can make the playoffs or which one finishes better in the division. Does that have an impact on which one of them wins NL Rookie of the Year? And then another rookie in that same division, maybe this is why the NL Central is so good. Connor Griffin didn't start the season in the majors, but he's been playing well since he has come up to the majors. Connor Griffin looking to see if he can catch up with some interdivision rivals in Weatherholt and South Stewart. Nolan McLean still pitching well, had one really rough start in the month of May, which is why I dropped him a couple spots to 4. Pitchers are always on, I think it's so hard for pitchers to win Rookie of the Year sometimes because, they go on a bad 2-week stretch. I think hurts their numbers more than a batter that goes on a bad 2-week stretch during the rookie year. And cold stretches are normal for rookies, but Nolan McLean, still have him number 4. Number 5 for the Cubs, Moises Ballesteros is still number 5. He was number 5 in my last update. He's number 5 here. I think I don't think he's close to this top 4. I think this top 4 has kind of separated themselves, and I think the top 2 has separated themselves from 3 and 4. But I want 5 players. Maybe I start cutting these lists as the season goes on. I think after 3 months, it should be enough time to eliminate some players, don't you? We'll see what happens. But all of these lists may not be 5 deep by the time end of June comes around. That is all I have for you guys today. In the comments below, let me know your World Series favorites, what you think is going to happen to the wild card race. Let me know who you think should win these awards. Any of that stuff, all of it, just one, anything I've said. I like to hear from you guys. I like to see conversation. Put it in the comments below. Also, I don't know if it makes sense to do a June update and then do an All-Star update and do an All-Star show like a week or 2 later. So should I combine those 2? Let me know in the comments below what you guys think I should do. Should I combine, do I need to talk about the All-Star game at all? Do I need to talk about the All-Star break? Or can I just wait for the end of June and just do end of June, end of July, and do the trade deadline stuff at the end of July? If you care to, you can let me know how you feel about that in the comments as well. I know a lot of homework for you guys this week. You don't have to participate in it, but I do appreciate it when you do. Please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, follow me on X. I know it's been dead on X for a minute. I'll get back to it, especially with the NHL and the NBA Finals starting. A lot of great sports happening this week. NCAA baseball, we made it through regionals. We're in super regionals, always such a great tournament. Lots of upsets happening there. Make sure you find a couch and watch some sports this week. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. It's a crazy world. Peace out.